Yeah. Jason, first of all, thank you for coming up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I will say the highlight of my night was watching you hand out your own autographed photos and people not recognizing that you were doing it.
It's part to do when you wore a mask for a living. But actually, I think it was Glenn that was standing with me, my bodyguard. Where's my muscle? Where's Glenn? There he is. That's my muscle. That's Glenn. And he was standing with me, and I think it was Glenn. If I was wrong, if it was somebody else, please, I apologize. But it's like, I wonder how many people are going to recognize that it's you handing out your picture. So the first 5 people that came through, yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. So after that, and then it slowed, and then we took pictures, and it was fun.
Yeah, you were into the selfie game, weren't you?
I don't do selfies, but yes,
Yeah,
they were taking
yeah.
selfies.
How's the winter going?
It's great.
Yeah. When do you get ready to get to Boston? And do you go to Boston at all during the season, during the off season?
This next week with Ben, what Ben puts together, Ben Crockett, with our rookie development program, making a appearance there, and then we also have our winter weekend at the end of next weekend for for the fan base there also. So take part in both. I actually just went out. I've seen a couple of our players, and just kind of intermix, and then just like everybody, it's a build up to spring and being on the field and seeing how these guys grow, and some grow taller and bigger, stronger, faster, and get ready to see them put it to work.
So tell us a little bit about your role with the Red Sox.
It's not really changed, even with transition from Ben to Dave. It's still there's maybe a little more attention to the big league level with Dave than there was with Ben, but I get the opportunity to go out and see from big leagues on down through our instructional ball for the most part. Spend a little more time this year with the big leagues, but I'll spend a little time in Pawtucket, here in Portland, and so on. But also get to see the flip side of how things, on a short-term basis, how hard work and how much the management sides put things together to allow the coaching staff and those people and the players to be put in positions to best succeed. And the tremendous amount of work that these folks do, not only on the management side, but also the coaching side with Carlos.
And I know you really like coming up here because I saw you talking to a lot of our fans that you recognized and our workers, and you could probably see how special Portland is to the fans and how much they love baseball.
Absolutely, and you probably can best. It happened actually this summer. Different times. Sometimes I'm in a dugout, sometimes in the stands, depending on who's pitching, who's catching, want to see side angle, front angle, or just be in a dugout with the guys to mentor and the questions start flying. But I was sitting in the stands, and at this point I forgot who was pitching because I was so consumed by what happened to my left. So this young lady says, "Hey, do you know Varitek's supposed to be here tonight?" Didn't say it to me, but she's saying it loud to her friend that's sitting 2 rows in front of her. And meanwhile, Ralph, who's our minor league pitching coordinator, sitting next to me, we're giggling. He's like, "Yeah," and then the guy turns on, "Yeah, the only thing I remember about him was he signs that big contract, and boy, he sure let himself go after that." Wow. And so I usually don't say a whole lot, so I leaned forward. I was like, "You just never know who you're sitting by."
That was probably a Yankee fan. That was, maybe next time we'll do the whole undercover boss. We'll dress you up and have you sit.
So she started, she actually came back. She's like, "I'm so sorry, I'm Greek. I can't help it." I said, "I'm married to a Greek. She's a Panagiotopoulos. I get it."
All right, I know if there's people out there, they want me to ask you right away, because this is the biggest thing for a lot of people here tonight, 2004. And I know it's 2017, but it just feels like yesterday for a lot of us, and how special that club was.
I think the best to say about 2004 is it wasn't about just 2004 for us. It was about Mo Vaughn, John Valentin, Jim Rice. Everybody before that bared so much weight over time for not winning. Yep. And we learned and had to continue to put small little blocks up higher to first take out our big brother in New York and then have that opportunity to go from there. And you had to have the right mix and the right people to do it the first time, but it happens from the top down that allowed everything to come into place, and then end result we had to perform.
Yeah, Kevin Millar is a former Sea Dog, and we've heard all the stories when you were down 3-0 to the Yankees. Don't let us win one. I'm sure he was the stirrer in that clubhouse.
See, this is one part. We look here at the camera, there's a red light, and that's Kevin's nickname, Red Light. Red light comes on, Kevin all of a sudden wakes up. He's not so funny when he's hitting 250, but he's really funny when he's hitting 300. And he is such a great person, a wonderful teammate, good friend, but that's Kevin. Kevin doesn't realize that Don't Let Us Win One has nothing to do with him. That started with Jimmy Williams in 99. And Kevin, I don't even know if he was in Pro Bowl yet. But that's a testament to Jimmy Williams and Grady Little, is that, we were down right away to Cleveland. He says, Jimmy walked into our clubhouse and says, don't let us win one. So it happened one year. It happened then against Oakland. Then it happened again against someone else. And next, same things against New York. Then it happens again against Cleveland. So there was a tradition set, but I wish we could take credit for it, but that's got to come from Jimmy Williams.
Yeah. Really amazing, though, that down 3-0 to the Yankees, and after that Game 3, and what was it, 18-7? Was that the score of Game 3? Yeah.
Sure, there's a movie about it.
Yeah. But it has to be one of the biggest and greatest comebacks in, not only Red Sox history, but in sports history. It's one of the best.
And we were very fortunate, too. We pitched so horribly for the first 3 games. We couldn't have pitched worse according to what we were trying to do, but we didn't quite get there. So we had the best of both worlds. We now start to pitch well. We're making the adjustments. They're not making the adjustments on us. And then we get a big hit with Bill Miller, and then another big hit with David. We win one, and now we pitch well. And then they've already had 4 or 5 hits apiece for the first 3 games, so they feel good about themselves. So the pressure just completely flips.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And David Ortiz's career ended this year, and he had a big part to do with just so many games, but I know how much he meant to so many of his teammates.
David's just special. Just a special player that, he was brought over in 2003, came over, doesn't play, and ends up hitting, 30-some home runs from 2 months into the season on. And he has an ability that most people don't have, is when everybody's backs against the wall, he performs. Not that he's has this extra special ability, but he has the ability to narrow his focus when it's the toughest of times. And for whatever reason, we were talking about this earlier with Carlos, is every highlight David ever has, I'm on deck. What are they doing? Every big hit David ever had, it's like, yeah, I'm on deck. I'm getting loose to try and floor him. And David gets a big hit. It's like, really? Ball 4?
Well, having you on deck helped him, right?
Yeah, maybe if it was a lefty throwing something, I get it. But, I wouldn't pitch to him. Yeah. I wouldn't have pitched to him ever. What's he going to do, steal second?
So how about that 2003 team? I forget how good that was. It was close to going to the World Series, but elaborate a little bit on what that team was like to play with. Almost the whole lineup hit 20 home runs.
Yeah, it was faced less adversity throughout the season because everything rolled. We scored runs. We pitched well. We just didn't, late enough into the year to where, you lose in Game 7. But that was a team that fired on all cylinders. A lot of the same compadres that made up both teams, but what really solidified the next year was Keith Foulke. Yeah. Going from 2003 to 2004 was having him at the means to an end in that bullpen makes everybody just falls into place behind him, and everybody knew the roles, and every once in a while he had to do it a little early, but he put a special, I call it a breathe right, on the rest of that bullpen.
He's been, I know he's been on Twitter a lot tonight. He just tweeted that he's so happy that the Red Sox and Sea Dogs have extended their player development agreement. So if you're on Twitter and you follow Keith, he's a big tweeter, which I'm sure you don't know that, right? Because you're not.
No,
you're
I'm not on Twitter.
No.
But good for Keith.
Yeah. We'll have to send him a picture. Your career started, I mean, you played at Georgia Tech, and you end up in the Mariners organization, and then you get traded with Derek Lowe for Heathcliff Slocum, and then the rest is history. I mean, what was it like when you first found out you got traded to Boston?
I think for any player that when you get traded, you know, you have some emotions and things. You know, I'd been in the Seattle organization for almost 3 years, and you start building relationships and do things. So it's like, you know, you just got broken up with.
Yeah.
You know, you got dumped. and then after a little bit of time, you realize you really didn't get dumped. You actually found a better one. Yeah. And so it ended up being such a great opportunity for me, which goes to, you know, Dan Duquette. He gave me an opportunity, but more importantly, I bring up Jimmy Williams again, a manager who believed in me as a player. And I'll never forget that from the standpoint, I hadn't played yet. Yeah. And I got called up and just working, doing my stuff, and Jimmy comes up to me one day in Yankee Stadium. He says, "You're a baseball player. You're going to be a baseball player a long time." And I needed that in that point in my career, but to have that belief in you as a player, I can't say more than what Jimmy Williams did for my career. You know, I still didn't play, you know, that September, but it put me in positions that following spring to where he saw enough and I performed enough to allow me the opportunity to play.
That position that you played, I mean, how hard is it to become comfortable? I mean, I know you talked about Camp Tuck, right? Isn't that Gary Tuck and what he's done for catchers? Just take us through that process of becoming a good catcher.
Well, I wish I met Gary Tuck when I was young and didn't have so many bad habits that you could get into and learn at a younger age, which we have now in our organization. We have, you know, Epperson, we have Chad, and Epi does a tremendous job of dealing with fundamentals behind the plate that allow our guys to maybe be advanced a little bit more. You just had one here, Romo's does an unbelievable job behind the plate, and then you had Blake, you had Vasquez, you've had different guys, you have who's just in LA, Fedorovich, Lavarnway. Everybody's having opportunities to get in the big leagues. That's a testament to our organization. You can't forget Shopik, different people. But to have somebody like that, to have that much structure and detail towards that position, because we are for the most part, the forgotten ones. So, okay, it's time to do base running. Catchers are in the bullpen just catching. Time to do something with catchers are in the bullpen just catching. Steal third, catchers are in the bullpen just catching. And they've been able to do things to hone the craft and to help put guys in positions to make better adjustments.
Yeah, Gary Tuck's a great Red Sox coach. We had Jared Saltalamacchia here a few years ago. Mm-hmm. He said the same thing, that when he got here that Gary really helped him, but it's learning a lot of different things behind the plate, not just calling games, but blocking pitches. It's a really big process to become a really great catcher in the big leagues, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to have a lot of favor too. Things have to go in the right direction. I believe that part of it is the durability and dependability through time that you're allowed to present through a time period that allows you to build trust and an awareness day in and day out. Because if you're dealing with, you know, Rick Porcello and he has a bad start and then he has a good one, now you've seen good and bad, now we can find somewhere in between. But if you're stuck at that level and every time you catch Rick Porcello he's bad, then someone else catches him, he's good, you don't have those opportunities to gain through the good and bad and then level out to who you are.
Yeah, and then sometimes being behind the plate, you have to really mentor some of your pitchers when they're going through a bad stretch.
Yes, to a point, but I always believe that it's reverse effect, that they're mentoring you, or not mentoring, they're teaching you who they are to best put them in a position when when their emotions are high, yours has to be low. And if you have an understanding what they can and can't do in those most emotional times, allows you to hopefully present the best options, because their livelihood depends on their ERA, their wins, their losses, the guys on base. And part of yours does, but it really comes down to the guy in the mound.
We've got to meet Pedro Martínez. He's come through here. The Red Sox have done a great job keeping some great players in their system as coaches, evaluators. Yourself, Keith Foulke. Pedro Martínez has been in Portland as an evaluator. Talk about the days that he pitched and how much fun they had to be behind the plate.
I think we were in New York. It was one of the ESPN Classic, becomes an ESPN Classic, Clemens versus Pedro Martínez. And they both have like a gazillion strikeouts. I think Pedro had like 18 or something. And it's a 1-0, 2-1, ends up a 1-0, 2-1 game. The strike zone was so horrible and so horribly wide that the umpire behind the plate got hurt, and they had to bring in another umpire from the I'm not using their names, so you guys can Google and figure it out. But
we
I
will.
know exactly who they are, and they're actually really good people. But this is just what the strike zone was. So Clemens is getting 8 inches off the plate. Pedro's getting 8 inches off the plate. Game gets over, and I remember Merlone goes to me, "Well, you did such a great job." Yeah, I just sat there. Because the strike zone was so wide. It's like really neither one of these two neither one should give up a hit, let alone a run. But that was part of what the game was. It was in the confines of what we played in, but it was wide. So it was like, yeah, you did such a great. Yeah, I did great. I just sat there, didn't move my glove.
So that's the prep that goes in for the pitcher meetings?
Yeah, that would be my best advice from instructional balls on up. If you can sit there and you don't have to move,
Yeah.
the guy's going to be good.
And Pedro was pretty good, right?
He was real good.
So just for our fans, what is it like when you prepare for a game, the meetings that you guys have? Because I don't think the average fan knows that everything that goes into the day of the game. What happens for your position with the pitcher?
I think it's more the series, and then you go into the individual pitcher, the starting pitcher of the day. So we have our advanced scouts, our major league advanced scouts, and a staff of people that put together a booklet and things that allow us scouting report and these things. So we have to filter through that. We have other game reports. We have it's a bats. It's like an inside edge. It shows strike zones and different things. You have 0-0, 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, hit percentages. You narrow things down. You formulate a game plan. You do that. Our pitching coach does that with our staff through the advanced scouting, and then it's presented to the catchers and the pitchers. And you also do your own work to help match up with what goes on there. And then you formulate basically a foundational plan of what you're going to do, what your overall game plan is, and then all of a sudden you get on the mound and the guy can't do that. So now we have to adjust. So that's the fun part of the game. But the overall strategy, a lot of people put in a lot of work and time to figure out what that is.
Yeah, and we've always heard that catchers make good coaches and managers because you kind of involved with every pitch. I mean, obviously you can tell us that that's true from being behind the plate for all these years. You're involved with every play.
Be involved in every play, absolutely. Everything you view everything from a frontal position. Everybody else is facing you. So, from hitting to what happens on the field and all that. But the biggest part, the catching aspect, is just dealing with the personality and the success of the guy in the mound.
Congrats, too, for being inducted in the Red Sox Hall of Fame. And have you been able now to... Are you able to look now at your career? I mean, you were a rare captain. There wasn't many in Red Sox history and all the franchise records that you were a part of.
I'm very fortunate to have been a part of that and been a part of that in one place, which kind of allows me to have an opportunity to be in the Red Sox Hall of Fame and some of our championships. It wasn't as much personal success as it was the whole team atmosphere. I'm very fortunate. I mean, it could have went the other way, but I'm also very fortunate that big part of that was durability and dependability of being out there every day.
And how about being in one place, and not only just the baseball part of it, but I'm sure over the years you get to meet so many special people connected with the Red Sox, whether that be fans, people you met on appearances, former players, because there's so many involved in the organization. It is a very unique organization.
I think first thing comes to mind is always the former players. And as a player, I always wanted, I couldn't wait for the next time Carlton Fisk came back. Like, can he stay here longer? It's not just at one of these dinners. Like, give me more. But we had that luxury. We had Pesky. We had Louis Tiant. I can say this about Louis is, in 2004, Derek Lowe doesn't ever turn around if Louis is not around, in my opinion, because Louis sank the ball. He moved the ball. He had some suggestions. Hey, try this with him. Get him on the plate. Do this, and then work east and west first. And we did it, and it actually helped Derek, and without Derek knowing. But the knowledge and the experience that they all had. I had Jim Rice for a hitting coach for years.
Yeah.
But to have them around, but Pesky, there was nobody more enjoyable. You walk in, I'm 0 for my last 20s, and he's got some sort of saying for me. I don't want to hear it right now, Pesky, but thank you. But he just cared that much.
Yeah. How long was he evolved? I mean, with the Red Sox for 50, 60 years? I mean, it's amazing how many people have been in the organization that long and he's the pillar of it.
No, absolutely. He was, from my days first being traded over here, and he was hitting fungos every single day, all day long, both at the big league camp and the minor league camp. To being around so much, it's like, hey, can somebody give Tito some space so he can manage the game? He was just a wonderful, wonderful man to be around.
Yeah, and I know that you've done a great job working with some younger catchers. I remember a day at Hadlock Field when you were here. I saw you, Rich Gedman, and Blake Swihart all together, and it was kind of weird to see you three because you're a big part of Red Sox fans. Blake was at our dinner here last year.
I'm fortunate that I've been allowed the opportunity to have a chance to float, and sometimes my experiences don't necessarily just curtail and just the catching side. Having switch hit, there's different struggles you run into in the switch hitting category of your life. But to be a part, most of my work with the catchers, I work through our coaching staffs. I work through our player development. And if it's a mental side, I don't necessarily work through them. But if it's anything physical, we have great working relationships to where Epi sees something, I could bounce something off him. We go back and forth. Dana, the same thing at the big league level. And it's just a great opportunity for me because there's trust between the three of us that I can go to them, they could go to me. I'm struggling with this. I'm not seeing this. What do you see? And it's a great little triangulation between the three of us.
And last year was really amazing. You lose Swihart, you lose Vasquez. Sandy Leon ends up being one of the best hitting catchers in baseball for a long period of time. I mean, you lose two catchers like that. Ryan Hannigan was on the DL most of the year. Usually it's not going to work out for a club.
No, and what Sandy did was not only statistically a great year, but he has year after year put himself in a position to be a defensive catcher that now can hit. And he's got a shutdown arm with a great ability calling games, and it came together for him at the right time. And it's those things you love because 2 weeks before he got called up, we just saw, we're with him in Syracuse and freezing in New York, and he gets a few knocks and month later, whatever it was, and it really started to come together for him. But if he's not a quality guy of what he does and how he goes about his business, he never has that opportunity, and he's done great to do that.
I'm sure as a catcher, it would have been fun to catch maybe David Price Chris Sale, Rick Porcello. It's quite a rotation the Red Sox have put together.
You can keep going in that rotation. It doesn't quite stop there. Yeah, we were talking at the winter meeting. I said, I'll lose 30 pounds. I can back up. It's impossible. I couldn't even come close to holding what our catching staff can do. But what an opportunity! What a projected pitching staff when you add, and we immediately forget how great David Price really is, and David Price just being on that pitching staff makes that pitching staff better.
And the way Stephen Wright pitched last year, he was traded here when he was in Akron. He was traded at Hadlock Field. We were playing Akron, and what a story. Stephen Wright and Sandy Leon were kind of great stories last year with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't think that team's in their position without the two of them, especially on the pitching end, what Stephen did last year. When we forget about it because he got hurt at the wrong time, that we couldn't appreciate it all the way through the end of the year. And his different roles, his flexibility early of eating innings and then settling into being an unbelievable starter.
Well, I'm sure some of the fans want to know this. Any long-term goals in baseball? You like the role you're in right now with the Red Sox?
Right now, I love the role. I love being on the field, but I also love what I'm learning from our senior staffs and from Dave and everybody else in there. So keep being involved in the organization.
Outside of 2004, which I know is probably one of your best moments, was there another year that maybe not a non-World Series year, or that was one of your favorite seasons or favorite moments that you had with the Red Sox?
So you stumped me. You play, and every year you play, and every time you go out there, you're reaching for the next goal, you're reaching for the next, trying to reach and get to that championship. So sometimes you forget all the fun and the good things that have happened in between. And we had the opportunity, I think, that of my 14, 15 years, we were in the playoffs 11 or 12 of those years. So having those opportunities, you almost get spoiled, but yet everyone was so different. Year the White Sox win the World Series, we got to the playoffs, but boy, were we broken. It was bad timing. There was 2003. There's no reason that team should ever have gotten knocked out of playoffs, and we're out. There's just different nuances through each one. And you go all the way back to 99. I think it was 99 when Pedro's, we're done. Our only pitcher is hurt, and we win Game 5. Pedro comes out of the bullpen. In Cleveland.
And he went hitless in that, right? Didn't he?
Pretty much.
Yeah. How about those Red Sox-Yankee games? They always took a little bit to play, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. You had some interesting games with them over the years.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
Just a couple. Which was as a player, the more, it was still like going. You're playing with your brother, your big brother outside, and constantly, he gives you 2 runs, and he wins 4-2. Like, it's just every time, it just kept inching closer. But we finally, having pushed through that, puts things at a more level playing field. But the excitement over time, when those two teams are both in playoff contention at the end of a season, doesn't get any better.
I mean, it seemed like almost every game when you played with the Red Sox at Fenway at Yankee Stadium, the game seemed to mean something no matter where the teams were in the standings.
I think when they were, which wasn't often where they were majorly split, I think it kind of alternated later in my career, but early on they were always at the top of the food chain. And, I mean, there's fights in the stands, there's fights in the bullpen, there's fights between teams, there's media members getting at each other's throat. Like, it's just a different atmosphere when they come into town and you go there. And, and it's just like being in New York. They're just different.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you handing out your own photo tonight. That was That was great. And shame on the people who did not recognize you, huh?
That's
You didn't
okay.
even get a look up, huh? No, they just...
Yeah, just keep
Yeah.
going.
That's, yeah. And somebody told us they named their dog after you.
Yeah, it was a golden.
Golden retriever,
Golden
yeah.
retriever, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming up.
Thank
And,
you.
we
Thank
hope to see
everyone
you
for
again.
having me.